Attempting to save 50 cents on 1 liter of gasoline, Belgians cross the border and line up at French gas stations. 30 cents is a temporary fuel discount provided by the government on the 1st of September. An additional 20 cents was dropped by one of the largest gas station networks in France.
You know when there's a big difference? I live in Ledegem, about 7 kilometers from the border, so why wouldn't I come here for fuel? That's as simple as that, if you can save 10 euros on fuel with such a small detour.
Gasoline tourism is also observed among Germans, but what should those who live far from the French border do? They have to pay as much as the local gas stations ask. And fuel prices have been rising rapidly since last year. The price of fuel reached its peak after February 24th, when the Russian Federation began its so-called special military operation in Ukraine. The fuel crisis is only part of the global energy crisis provoked by the Kremlin. The countries of the Big Seven decided to put an end to Moscow's blackmail, as well as to block it from the most important source of income to the federal budget.
This Russian war threatens food and energy security globally. At the same time, Russia is benefiting economically from the war-related uncertainties on the energy markets. Russia is currently making high profits from the exports of raw materials, such as oil, and we want to counter this decisively. We in the EU have already decided to end oil imports in the 6th sanctions package, and we do not want Russia to continue to profit from these sales.
Great Britain, Germany, Italy, Canada, France, Japan and the USA agreed to introduce a so-called price ceiling for Russian oil. This is the maximum cost of 1 barrel. If the Russian Federation supplies fuel cheaper than this maximum, it will be able to legally bypass the total oil sanctions introduced after the invasion of Ukraine.
We want to limit Russia's revenues and at the same time reduce economic damage to our societies. This price cap on Russian oil exports is designed to reduce Putin's revenues, to close a major source of funding for this war of aggression. At the same time, we want to contain increases in global energy prices, as it minimizes inflation globally.
The European oil ban will take effect on December 5th. Meanwhile, the Big Seven have time to think about how exactly the price ceiling will work and at what level it will be set. In July, the Bloomberg agency wrote that the range of $40–60 per barrel will be valid for Russian oil. To force the Russian Federation to sell oil not at the market price but at a fixed price that barely exceeds the cost price is the idea of USA, and Washington has been promoting it since the beginning of summer, reports the Russian BBC service.
A global price cap will help us accomplish our 2 goals. The first one is significantly reduce Putin's biggest source of revenue for his war chest. Number 2, ensure that oil continues to flow into the market at lower prices and supply meets demand. The impact of our efforts to implement a price cap is already bearing fruit. Reports show that Russia is already offering steep discounts, as much as 30%, and long-term contracts to some countries.
According to the International Energy Agency, last year revenues from the sale of oil and gas accounted for 45% of Russia's federal budget. High energy prices, partly caused by the war, continue to fill the Kremlin's treasury. The decision of the Big Seven was welcomed by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky.
It is long past time for such energy sanctions against Russia. Sanctions that will not only limit the flow of petrodollars and gas euros to Moscow, but also restore justice for all Europeans whom Russia is trying to blackmail with artificially inflated prices on the energy market.
The Kremlin has already announced that they will not agree to any sale of black gold at a limited price.
Those countries that join a potential ceiling of prices would not be among those receiving Russian oil. We will simply not cooperate with them on oil on such non-market principles.
Before the invasion of Ukraine, Russia exported about 60% of its oil to Europe. By the end of this year, all 27 EU members have committed to gradually reduce Russian imports up to 90%. Such a decision will not be painless for the European Union. What's more, Italy and Austria complain that now Moscow will reduce as well their supply of natural gas, as if to take revenge for the decision of the EU to refuse to buy Russian oil. When the embargo comes into effect, the supply of oil on the market will decrease sharply. Therefore, if the previous demand is maintained, prices will inevitably break long-term records. But all this does not frighten the EU at the moment. They confidently support Ukraine and are currently discussing the establishment of a maximum price for Russian gas as well. Meanwhile, smaller traders deal with oil with no signs of discomfort. Barely famous companies use Singapore or United Emirates as safe harbors to avoid sanctions and get the best prices from the energy crisis provoked by Russia. With the EU storages almost ready for winter, there is no much left for traders. Russia has lost its reputation as an adequate and solid supplier, so the question is, who will be in charge of Russian natural resources when Putin regime falls? And will those resources even be in demand as much as today?